Okay. Any questions about what an operational, being specific? So I would have to define specifically what I meant by depression in my study. Was it how many times this person cries a week, or whether they have any suicidal ideation, whatever, as long as I was precise about my definition. Statistically significant, this means, and again, we're not going to get into any of the mathematical, the statistics of doing research here, but every time we analyze our statistics, our results give us an indication of how likely the differences between our groups are due to chance or due to a variable that I manipulated. Okay, I want my studies to reflect that my manipulation of a variable caused a certain effect. But I have to test that statistically to be able to conclude it. That will make more sense in a minute when I give you that description of an experiment. Okay, meta-analysis is a particular kind of study done in psychology where we go out and combine. Okay, if you were to do a research paper and go to the library and look up a number of studies on a particular topic, you might find conflicting results. One study finds this and another study finds that, and they're exactly the opposite. And you're saying, well, which is right here? Well, what a meta-analysis does is it goes out and it compiles 20 or 30 or 40 specific studies done on that topic, lumps them all together, analyzes all their data to see if there are overall trends in the research. That this seems to be the more likely effect. Yes?
For a class I had last summer session, I actually did do a research paper, and one of the sources was did claim to have done one of those. They claim to have analyzed the results of 30 studies on different subjects.
Perfect. That's exactly what a meta-analytic study does. Yeah. It takes many studies, combines them, and looks for overall trends. Yes, Gretchen?
Do they actually do them, or is it like a computer?
No, they don't do them. It's all done statistically, where they just take the statistics from those 30 or 40 studies. And again, I don't know the statistics involved, but then they put all those subjects. There have been meta-analytic studies that have covered thousands of patients, okay, 35,000 subjects, but that's by compiling 30 or 40 different studies, and they just get overall trend. Okay. All right, the last term here is replication, and that means the ability to repeat or duplicate a study to increase our confidence in the validity of the finding. So let's say, again, I do a study here at the University of Evansville on some new treatment for depression that I think is going to work. So I use subjects like you all, undergraduate subjects from the University of Evansville, and I randomly assign you to my groups, and one of my groups gets this new treatment for depression that I've come up with. And sure enough, when I analyze the results, my new treatment for depression was better than what we'll see as what's a control group?
Just like, example, if you're trying to do see if soap and water cleans your hand.
Yes.
Control, let's say they put germs on and then they don't do anything.
Okay, yeah, exactly. A control group is just the status quo, nothing special. Okay, so a control group in a depression treatment would be people typically who are put on a waiting list, and they're told, we can't accommodate you right now, but sit tight, and when we have an opening here, we'll call you. And what we really want to do is see see over the 10 weeks or the 20 weeks of our study whether those people change at all, whether they improve, or whether the people getting the treatment improve more. Let's say I did that kind of a study, and I published my results, and somebody out in California reads this study, and they say, oh, you know what, that was done with Hoosiers, people from Indiana. That's not going to work with cool people from California. So, okay, what they could do is replicate my study, do exactly the same study, but instead do it with Californians instead of Hoosiers, okay? And they could see then if they get the same kind of results as I did. If they did, that increases the confidence in the validity of my findings. If they don't, what that tells us is the kind of subjects you're working with makes a difference. That's important information to have. Everybody see that? But the key here is you've got to give, again, this kind of is tied in with operational definition up above. You got to give enough specifics so that somebody who wants to replicate that study can do it. Okay? So there's a lot of information on that slide. Any questions about any of those terms? Okay. Typically, when we talk about the scientific method, it's a 4-step method. I'm sure you've all heard of it before. First step here, formulate a specific question, which we're going to call a hypothesis, that can be tested. And that hypothesis is typically a relationship between 2 or more variables. And again, it's important that it be stated in testable ways. Okay? We're going to talk later on in the chapter here about pseudosciences. Anybody know what does it mean when you put that prefix pseudo on any term?
Fake.
Fake, right. And a pseudoscience is a fake science. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of businesses stake their claims on the efficacy of their product. I think your book talks about some company coming up with a magnetic vest for treating schizophrenia, that somehow it realigns the magnetic forces in the body to overcome the schizophrenia. Well, as an informed consumer, you have to be skeptical about those kinds of claims, okay? And see and ask, where's the data? Is your claim being stated in testable ways? Okay? If it says it's going to increase your energy, well, how are you going to define my energy? Okay, that's a pretty vague concept. Got to be specific here. Second step then is once we have our hypothesis, we come up with a type of methodology that allows us to go out and collect our data. Third step here, we analyze that data using statistical methods to summarize and draw a conclusion. Does my data support my hypothesis? In which case I have more confidence in the theory that generated that hypothesis. If it doesn't support my hypothesis, I go back to the drawing board and I tweak the theory from which that hypothesis came. And that's step 4, the results. Report the results, and that's what we do when we publish findings. We give the rationale for testing the hypothesis, who were our subjects, how were they selected, how the variables were operationally defined, what procedures, methods were used, how the data were analyzed, and what the results seem to suggest. So that is the 4-step scientific method. Okay, any questions? Okay, so I've used the term theory here a number of times. What is a theory? It's a tentative explanation that integrates and accounts for the relationship of different findings and observations. It's a way of organizing what we know about a topic, about an issue. And I like this second point here. It reflects the self-correcting nature scientific enterprise. So as I said a couple of minutes ago in describing the scientific method, if the data in a study supports my hypothesis, I gain confidence in the theory that generated that hypothesis. If it doesn't support the hypothesis, I have to go back to the theory and correct it. So that's where the term self-correcting comes in. And then I've added the phrase here, that's how I would like to see all of us conducting our intellectual lives. And this is a huge problem in society today, with all the talk out there about fake news and facts and people having their own set of facts. Okay, that's not possible, okay? There are facts and there are not facts, okay? And the facts are supported by this data. And what I would like to see people do, but again, there's a lot of people who don't do it today. They have their beliefs and they are married to those beliefs, come hell or high water or conflicting data. And they are loath to change their mind. I tell the story of a friend of mine who was the superintendent of schools in a school corporation around Evansville here, a rural school corporation. And the job of the superintendent sometimes is to suggest to the school board to make changes in policy. So he thought they should be changing a policy that they had. So he did his homework, he did his research, he went out, found what the data said about this question that he wanted to change the school corporation's policy on. And he was presenting his data at the school board meeting. And at some point in that meeting, a school board member raised their hand or stood up and said, "Stop confusing me with facts and data. My mind is made up." That,
What?
yes, exactly. But that terrifies me because there are a lot of people who unfortunately operate that way. They don't want to be confronted with data that is not consistent with their belief system, because somehow they think that means they're wrong, which it does mean they're wrong, but that's all it means. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or you're a stupid person for having believed what you believe. You know, it just means what you should do is revise your attitudes and your beliefs. That's okay. But somehow we've made it bad in our society to change your position. Sometimes we call those people flip-floppers, okay? And that shouldn't be the case. I'm much more worried about somebody who refuses to change their position regardless of the data than I am somebody who says, you know, maybe I got that wrong. Maybe I'm not right here. Let me look into it. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? So hopefully be a big enough person that if somebody presents you data that contradicts your belief system, you're open to possibly changing it. Right? So the conclusions of psychology rest on empirical evidence, data gathered using the scientific method. The same is not true of pseudo-scientific claims. What are the warning signs of a pseudoscience? This is a partial list here. And again, this is what advertisers for businesses that are based on pseudo-scientific claims base their strategies on. And the first one here is testimonials rather than scientific evidence. What's a testimonial?
Saying something happened to him?
Right. Remember Jared with Subway? I don't know, maybe that goes back too far, but Jared's now in jail for other misbehaviors. But Jared went on television and would hold up an old pair of blue jeans that he supposedly wore when he weighed 150 pounds more. And he was saying, since I've been eating chicken Subway sandwiches, I've lost 150 pounds. Now, what's potentially wrong with testimonials as evidence? Yes.
It's not like really any proof.
Okay, number one, the basic fact is, how do I know Jared is telling me the truth? Or is he just saying what he was paid $10,000 by Subway to say on television? So again, the claim may not be true. What's another potential problem with testimony?
Suppose that isn't like the only change that happened, like, suppose he just changes the amount he eats in general, like, he eats one Subway sandwich a week and nothing else until he's dropped the 150 pounds.
Okay, so he may be basically on a fast, okay, or a very drastic diet. Or, how do I know Jared is not going to the gym 5 days a week and working out while he's eating Subway sandwiches? And then is it going to the gym and starting this rigorous exercise program that caused or helped cause his weight loss? They don't talk about that because they're not selling gym memberships on this commercial, they're selling Subway sandwiches. So again, you gotta be skeptical there about what else he was doing. Any other problems? Sometimes you hear this disclaimer at the end of testimony. Anybody know what I'm talking about there?
Results not typical.
Exactly. These results may not be typical for you. They may not apply to you. So it's that individual variability
They don't
question.
apply to me, why should I buy the product?
Exactly. But again, they
Which
don't.
is why they say like,
Yeah, they don't want to emphasize that point. Okay, but it may not work with you like it worked with whoever's giving the testimony. So those are just some of the potential problems with testimony. You've always got to be skeptical with, we'll see this coming up, studies that have what we say an N of one, single subject study, where it's all based on one person. Because the fact of the matter is, you don't know how typical that one person is.
But if there's one person, how can there be a control group?
There is no control group. Exactly. So it's not a very reliable scientific study. Okay? I mean, we're finding this out more and more, especially with weight loss. A person's genetic makeup, their metabolic makeup, their physiological makeup may cause them to respond differently to certain diets than to other diets. Okay? We just don't know. Okay? Okay, second strategy up here. Scientific jargon without scientific substance. Don't be dazzled with bullshit, excuse me, in commercials. But they may use scientific sounding jargon. Don't be overwhelmed by that. Third strategy here. Combining established scientific knowledge with unfounded claims. Like in your textbook, magnetic vests. Well, we have MRIs, magnetic resonance imaging, which is a very valid type of scientific test. Maybe that's what's going on in these magnetic vests. So they're conflating some science with pseudoscience, real science with pseudoscience. Strategy 4 here, irrefutable or non-falsifiable claims. Things like putting this crystal pyramid under your bed will realign your magnetic field and give you more energy. How do I test that? My alignment of magnetic field. How do I even test reliably more energy? Okay, so how do they state their claims? Are they tested? Fifth strategy here, a confirmation bias. And this is characteristic of human beings, and it's a problem in our culture right now. When people go out and watch news, and we have the phenomenon that people who are conservative, what do they tend to watch in terms of getting their news? Anybody know conservative news channel?
Fox?
Fox News. So they tend to watch news reports that are going to confirm their pre-existing bias. Somebody who is liberal doesn't watch Fox News, they watch MSNBC, okay? And they tend to confirm their liberal biases. You know, this is what happened in the last couple of elections. People only listen to the surveys of potential voters that supported their beliefs. That's why I say here, get out of your bubble. Be open to other information. Okay? Strategy 6 here, shifting the burden of proof. If this mother says, okay, my son wearing this magnetic vest did not improve his schizophrenia, they may come back and say, well, you weren't using it correctly. You weren't using it as consistently as we recommended. Putting the blame back on the user here, the consumer. And then strategy 7, giving themselves multiple outs rather than my product is bogus. Again, it could be your physiology, it could be how you use the product, it could be a million things besides my product doesn't work. Okay? So, the takeaway here is be skeptical. Be an informed consumer. Have you ever heard the Latin phrase caveat emptor? Caveat emptor means buyer beware. The onus is on you as a consumer to do your research. Otherwise, you can't complain. Okay?
It seems to be another warning sign of something being consumer science. It's an advertisement.
Yeah, somebody's paid to put that on, as opposed to a publication in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. We don't pay to get our studies published. Journals choose to publish them if they are solid scientific evidence. Okay, now we're going to get into 5 or 6 different types of research strategies here that researchers can use to test their hypothesis. Now we're roughly going to differentiate all of these research strategies into 2 large groups. The first one are descriptive studies. If you remember yesterday when we talked about what is the role of psychology, one was to describe behavior, the who, what, where, and when of behavior. That's what descriptive strategies are aimed at, strategies for observing and describing behavior. We're going to talk about 4 of them here. I've already alluded to one, that would be the second one, the case study, a single case. But we also have naturalistic observation, surveys, and correlational methods that we're talking about. And then the second large group is a true experiment. And true experiments, the main difference you should remember between a descriptive strategy and an experimental strategy is the experimental strategies get to the why. The descriptive strategies are the who, what, where, and when. And the experimental strategies get to the why. Because they are the only type of study that can allow us to infer cause and effect relationship between our variables. My manipulation of this variable caused the differences I saw in this variable. That'll make more sense to you in a minute when we get into true experiments. Okay, so let's talk about the descriptive research method. As the name implies, they describe a set of facts. The big shortcoming of any descriptive research method is they cannot establish a causal relationship between my variables. Now, what they do accomplish is they can predict what may influence the facts. So a lot of times you'll have researchers start by doing a descriptive study, like a correlational study, and then if they get significant results, then they go on to do a true experiment. Okay? And again, the research may or may not include numerical data. So, the first type of descriptive method we're going to talk about in the textbook is the naturalistic observation. And I've got here, after the colon there, the science of people and animal watching. It's observing subjects and collecting data. Now, when we add that term naturalistic, what that means, anytime you see the term naturalistic in psychological research, it means we're not in a laboratory, we're not in an artificial setting, we're out in the real world, the natural environment. So, let's say I'm interested in how aggressive are preschool children. Okay? Now we think preschoolers can be very aggressive. Okay? So, to collect some data, I may go to a preschool, okay, and say, can I sit outside your playground here, and when you guys have playground recess, can I observe your preschoolers here and just tally the number of incidents of regression that I see between preschoolers? Okay? That would be a naturalistic observation. Direct observation of behavior, recording observation, rather than relying on subjects' description, or what we call self-reports. So that would be a self-report would be an example of me, let's say, interviewing parents of preschoolers and saying, asking them how aggressive, how frequently does your preschooler get involved in a fight? How frequently do they hit other kids or bite other kids? Because what's a potential problem with self-report, where subjects tell me, oh, that reminds me of a possibility for you guys for extra credit in this class. Sometimes we have research ongoing in the psychology department, and if we have people doing research, they need guinea pigs, they need subjects. So in the past, if there's been research going on, we've made it available to students in our introductory psych class to participate in those studies for some extra credit.
Like, what would be an example?
Well, okay, and I don't even know if this is the kind of subject, the study that's going on, but Dr. Stevenson has research ongoing in the department on aspects of jury deliberation. So what she does is she sets up mock jury. So if you, let's say, if you could volunteer to participate in a study like that, you would be a juror at a trial. And what she would do is have you watch an hour video of an attorney presenting data, evidence in a trial, and then asking you to deliberate on what you saw there and come up with a conclusion of guilty or not guilty. Okay? That would be an example. I have no idea if that's that's the kind of study that's going on right now. And they would be interested in looking at things like, does the sex of the defendant come into play? Does the race of the defendant come into play? Does the fact that the defendant is covered in tattoos influence jury deliberations? Those kinds of things. Okay. So let me check and see if that's available for you guys. And if you want to do that, you don't have to do it, but that would be an option for you for extra credit. okay? And I guess the self-report made me think of that. If I don't come in tomorrow, well, if I don't start talking about it tomorrow, ask me about it. Okay, so what is the problem with self-reports, with having people fill out surveys, like parents, on how aggressive your preschooler is?
They're not with them at preschool.
They're
Well,
what?
most,
They're not with them all the time?
Yeah.
Okay, so the report may not be accurate.
Suppose
Those parents are gonna talk bad about their child.
Right, people lie, okay? People lie when they're reporting on their behavior or their children's behavior. They don't want their child to look like a problem child, so they're gonna make them look better. So and again, some parents will be perfectly honest, some won't. I don't know who's who. Zen, what did you say? Same thing? That they lie?
Yeah.
Okay.
pretty much.
Any other problems or something? That's basically I have no way of knowing if they're being honest or not. Whereas if I go out into that playground and I observe aggressive behavior directly, I know it's accurate. Okay? So it includes the goal of detecting behavior patterns that exist naturally, patterns that might not be apparent in the laboratory. Because if I bring kids into a play setting in my laboratory, is it possible that they may change their behavior because they got this strange psychologist there watching? Exactly. You know you're being watched. We call that a reactive measure in psychology. The way you're collecting the data may cause the subject to react to your data collection. A good example there is, if I want to lose weight, one of the first things that a therapist might have me do is say, keep a food diary. I want you to go home this week and write down everything you eat. Now, the fact that I'm going to have to write this down and show it to my therapist, might that affect whether I eat 3 or 4 donuts as compared to eating 1 donut? Yeah, I don't want to look like a pig. But I know if my therapist is going to see this, I don't want to look like a hog here. So I may only eat 1 donut. That's a reactive measure. The fact that I may fudge because I know I'm being observed. Okay? Okay, and then the third point here is it allows researchers to study human behaviors that can't ethically be manipulated in an experiment. Let me go back to the aggression. Okay, I can't create a conflict between preschoolers. Have one of them get frustrated because he can't play with a toy that another one is playing with, and then see if he gets aggressive in order to get that